I saw that on TV the other day. Ew. I see a lifetime of God Almighty moving. I have nothing to hold up against that. In the 28 years I have been following the Lord, I've never once doubted Him. Well, I've doubted Him fixing my life and, paying my bills. I do that every day. But I've never once said, what if I'm on the wrong path? Or what if these other things work? Well, of course they work. Every single self-help plan on the planet brings something to the table of value. But I'm just talking about Rahab. I'm just talking about someone who gets that God is huge, and now's the time just to get on board, whether I get it or not. And I think that's what the first day of the born-again experience really is. I think it's somehow, some way, getting that God is huge. And I don't really get much of this, but I'm just going to get on board, and I'm sure I'll find out once I do. It is really challenging to be a Christian. In fact, I think it's impossible to be a Christian. In fact, I think it's a waste of effort to try to be a Christian. Because if I gave everybody a pad of paper and I said, make a list of what it means to be a Christian, y'all would come up with something different. And I bet if you wrote down 5 things and each thing were worth 20 points, I might score an average of 40. But if it were down to being perfect, I wouldn't score anything. Well, then you strive to be good. I don't strive to be good. I strive to be true. It's easier to be true than it is to be good, by the way. It is. It's easier to get before the Lord as is and say, this is who I am, take me as I am, make me what you want to make me, and work in me, and watch Him do it is a lot easier than trying to remember all the things we're supposed to do right. And I had someone ask me today, why? Why do you do this? Why do you do this? Why do you do this? Well, the answer is I like the clothes. And I like looking back and having at least one area of my life not make me cringe. I'm happy to report that I look in the back of the room and I see an old friend, and I remember an amazing period of my life that I don't remember much of, but it was fun. But it was really big. At least I don't cringe. But how many other seasons of our life do we look back on and cringe? How many things have we said that when they float through our head again, we go, ah, wow, wish I hadn't said that. Or in my case, I wish I'd said it louder. And how many times have we been hurt? And how many times have we hurt others because of these regrets? I could say, in all honesty, but with no attempt at goodness, that I look back on 28 years of serving the Lord, and it has been nothing but a series of sacrifices. And some of them were mine. Some of them were actually mine. And I cannot remember a season of life where the seas weren't parting, where the enemies weren't defeated, where what Jesus did on the cross didn't serve the mistakes I had made, the choices I had made, the things that people did to me, and just everything that happens by walking through this world. I have a testimony that sounds something like, I was a teenager and I was in a LA band and we were recording our first record and God started working on me and I quit everything to find out who God was, and He turned out to be Jesus, and I laid down music and I laid down rock and I laid down sex, drugs, rock and roll, and all that work that would have led to a hit record that I could have had that year. At least I wouldn't be broke now, but I gave all that up to find out who God was. Something like that would be my testimony. I would be really, really interested to hear his version of that story. Because it would have a lot more him in it than me. And would have a lot more, this is what I was, and this is what I had to do. All that stuff we're so used to sharing as believers. I think it would come down to, I love Paisley, would be his testimonial and his version of the story. And then it would be all these wonderful moments where he revealed that love. And it would have nothing to do with anything I did right or wrong. It would just have to do with who he was. And I think it's time for God's people first to stop waving the Christian flag and actually having some testimony to back it up. Start having some awareness. See, everyone does, by the way, I should probably say that. Everybody does have testimony. Everybody does. If you would just stop and look back on your life, you could probably make a very long list of how many times God came through. I didn't say perform to your liking, but came through. But I think we lose sight of that. I think that we become little preachers that want to say all this rhetoric to people, and there's nothing to substantiate it because it's all a bunch of pooey. And I think we're no different than all the tranquility seekers. Because in the end, it's not our story, it's his story. It's what he did. And we are created to glorify him. We are created to share with people. Oh my gosh, did anyone see Victoria Jackson on TV? Anyone remember Victoria Jackson from Saturday Night Live? She's the one who talks like this. Remember her? Well, she's like a thumper now. She's one of us. That really scares me. If she's one of us, I don't want to be one of us. I'm serious. That was the scariest thing I've ever seen. She had an interview on something like Larry King, but one of the night shows, and she was like going, wait a minute, and she was trying to remember what her lines were, what she had heard at church and what she had to repeat. And I sat there and I went, why don't you go have some testimony? Why don't you be someone that when people look at you, just by looking at you, they know that you possess something that we're all meant to have? Why don't they see you as someone so confident when you walk through life with such confidence that someone says to you, where does that confidence come from? Where do you get that? Where's that twinkle in your eye? As opposed to the crap flying out of your mouth that someone else said who didn't have any experience either. See, the people who are really having these life-changing experiences over and over and over again with God are humble. I know I'm the poster boy for humility, I get it. But humility makes it really hard to attack others. Because true humility teaches you how you didn't earn what you got, that it was given freely. And one day in my life, I said, I think that God thing is huge. I'll jump on board because I don't want to be one of the people drowned. No one had to preached that to me. I saw, I sensed, I felt, I experienced him for myself, and I jumped aboard not knowing a whole lot. And 28 years later, there's not a speck of regret about him, but we won't talk about my choices, but there's not a speck of regret, but there is a history of accomplishment. They're just not my accomplishments. And while I've done a lot, and I'm grateful that I get to do a lot, I know what I gave up when I became a believer. I know what I laid down and gave to the Lord and wait for Him to give it back to me if He ever would. I know what I did. And all I can say is He filled every nook and cranny with His presence, His guidance, and His love, and His majesty, and His power, and His authority, and His testimony. And I only wish that every, forgive me, believer that I meet can say at least that. At least that. I know you can. I know I'm preaching to the choir, right? Thanks. That's where you know. That's good. But you know what I'm saying? I hope that's the case. And to non-believers, I say, it's fun to preach hellfire and brimstone. It really is. And if you're wearing the right clothes, you could really bring it home. Really bring it home. But I would just say, when you look back, what do you see? When you look back, what do you see? Sure, you see great things. I'm sure you see good things. But do you see a relationship over a lifetime with the God who made you? Not the God you invented, but the God who made you. And this is the part where, the guy in the suit says, all right, I'm going to ask everybody right now. So, what I am going to say is that you know enough to know better. And one thing that is a guaranteed fact is nobody forgets tonight. Nobody forgets tonight. I love when I talk to people all the time. I say, hey, when you come to a show, I'm going to tell you, right when the show's over, you're going to come up to me afterwards and you're going to say the following. You're right. I will never forget this as long as I live. Yep, I'm going to sleep with the lights on, but I will never forget this as long as I live. Thank you guys very much. It was average. Thank you guys. And if you applaud and make hootie sounds, I'll sing one more song. Eventually. Do we have any requests? Don't say it.
Well,
I don't even know it. That's a lie. I can do it in my sleep. That's what's so weird. There's talk of a Jerry's Kids reunion. Will you be our drummer?
yeah, sure.
Because our other
Buy me
drummer...
a drum kit.
What?
Buy me a drum kit.
Yeah, I'll rent you one.
Okay.
I'll rent you one.